The Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, the NCDMB, has revealed that indigenous oil companies in Nigeria now have control of over 60% of the country's domestic gas supply. And this marks a significant increase from zero participation in the past decade. This was revealed by engineer Simbi Wabote, the executive secretary of the NCDMB, during a meeting with media stakeholders. He also stated that the recent acquisitions by some indigenous companies would have a positive impact on the country's crude oil production capacity, of course. Now, joining us to have this conversation, we have Judge Brown, oil and gas expert, management consultant from River State. Thank you, Judge Brown, for joining us. Mr. Judge Brown, can you hear us?
Thanks for having me. Yes, I can hear you.
All right, it's a pleasure. Yes. Okay. We also have joining us Chuks Emeka, oil and gas analyst in Lagos. Thank you, Mr. Chuks, for joining us.
Thank you for having me on board.
It's a pleasure as well. Now, gentlemen, I'm going to start with you, George. Nigeria's indigenous oil firms now control 60% of the domestic gas supply from zero participation in the past decade. How were we able to achieve this, going from zero participation to 60%? George.
Okay. Thanks for having me. Good day, viewers. Blessings. The oil and gas sector has gone through a lot of in the last year, and the coming or the establishing of the NCDMB has greatly impacted positively on the benefits that are put to indigenous oil and gas operation companies. And we cannot continue to sing it like an old song. It's a welcome development. It's done so much in improving both capacity, and it also demonstrated that most Nigerians have capacity to actually run oil producing companies in ways and manner that can be benchmarked world standards.
Now, you did mention that this stems a little from the, coming of the NCDMB. What exactly is the role of the NCDMB in Nigeria?
Yeah, the Nigerian Content Development Monitoring was established by an act of the government and by a law. And their basic responsibility was to increase the capacity or develop the capacity of Nigeria to take part in the core operation of exploration and extraction of crude oil and associated gas, and the framework for the entire industry across its value chain with a specific drive towards building human capacity.
All right. Okay, thank you for that, George. Now, Mr. Emeka, the recent acquisitions by Seplat and Wando, specifically Seplat's acquisition of Mobil Producing Unlimited, the MPNU, from ExxonMobil Corporation, and of course, Wando's purchase of Nigerian Agip Oil Company Limited. Looking at all these acquisitions, what benefits would you say that the country stands to gain from them?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. A lot of benefits that the country can derive from those. But my challenge has always been the policy or because of the policy are coming from government have been unstable. Now the question is, this policy, this matters and the how are they going to be able to help the Nigerians? That's where I am standing. Currently, as I talk to you today, the price of cooking gas is skyrocketing, and it's an alarming rate. how are we going to be able to handle this so that every Nigerian citizen can benefit from some of this things the government put it out? The fact that Nigeria is no more refining petroleum products is one of the major reasons for the skyrocketing of the price of cooking gas. And now we are now relying on importers who are going to be importing cooking gas. Nigeria has no business in the first place importing cooking gas. We have no business importing any distillate, any refined product. Now, because we have fallen back into importing, we are going to be having issues of forest challenge because the country doesn't have enough forest. Everybody is scrambling for forest. The spare part man in the market is scrambling for forest. Somebody wants to bring in 2 cities and is scrambling for forest. So there's not enough forest to be able to drive the input and get it at the rate that we are supposed to bring in that will not affect the average Nigerian. Now, if I'm going to scramble for forest and pay at a very high rate to get forest, I can sell at a cheap rate when I bring this product.
Okay, Mr. Chuks, I would like for you to hold that thought. You did mention the price of cooking gas. I wanted to take a look at this package that refers to the hike in the price of cooking gas, and then we'll continue the conversation.
Owing to the rumored increase in the price of liquefied petroleum gas, also known as cooking gas, I am here to ascertain the real price of the product, both from the filling stations and also from those who are selling on the streets.
I got gas here 2 weeks ago for 9375. That's 12.5 kg, and today it's 10,625 naira.
Now they were just selling 750 per kg, but they just adjusted it to 850 by adding 100 naira. But the painful aspect is that not that they just got a new supply, but it's the same old supply, they just adjust the price, which is very, very painful.
I believe the government will find at least they should do something. It's getting shocking people, and it's too much.
Due to the price of dollars, most marketers cannot afford to get the product anymore.
The last time we saw was 850, but now it's 1,000. It has really reduced our customer base in that people now try to find alternative like charcoal. Most people now make use of charcoal.
While 150 naira premium exists between the price on the street and the price on the gas plants, one thing is sure, the product is scarce and it is becoming more expensive. What could be the reason for this? We'll find out.
For a product that we have to import, if there is a depreciation in the value of the naira, that will have an automatic implication for price pressure on such a product. And this is so it is automatic for LPG, since we still have to import from time to time to bridge the gap in the demand. Things like vessel prices have gone up and several other costs around the importation of this product. Since the removal of fuel subsidy, there is a new demand for LPG by people who are converting their generators to an LPG or a dual fuel generators.
Efforts to speak with the president of the Nigerian Association of Liquefied Petroleum Gas Marketers, Olatobo Oladapo, proved abortive as he declined to comment. Mr. Oladapo had warned that the price of 12.5 kilogram cooking gas could go as high as 18,000 naira by December if Nigeria's federal government does not checkmate the activities of the terminal owners. While the price still varies depending on the location and vendor, it is hoped that the government steps into the situation before it further exacerbates the already high cost of living in Nigeria. Perpetua Fasami Peter reporting for News Central.
That was a report put together by our correspondent Perpetual Fasomi Peter on the price of gas, cooking gas in Nigeria. Now, I'm going to ask Mr. George Brown, what is your take on the spike in price of cooking gas right now?
I will not really want to dwell on the spike in the price of cooking gas. During our last conversation that we had on this network, I made it known to all of us that the private refineries that are being developed in this, I don't want to mention names, will definitely not address the issues that Nigerians are very, very concerned about. And the availability of liquefied petroleum and associated with it will also not affect Nigerians in a positive way, because these are commercial concerns. Yes, we produce cooking gas, we produce LPG in multiple facilities in this country, if you must know. ExxonMobil produces LPG. They've been producing LPG in this country off Bonny Island since 1990, August of 1998. LNG also produces LPG since they also commenced operations in 1999. But when they started, or their facilities were built to basically export. So selling the product locally was not part of the agreements that they had with the NNPC when they were setting up their plants. So what was happening then was that they export products, then marketers from Nigeria go abroad and import these products into the local market. Meanwhile, these are products that are produced locally in this country. We have only two LPG receptacles or LPG receiving facilities in this country, one at Atlas Cove in Lagos and one in Calabar. These are the only two entry points, or these are the only two facilities that can actually receive shipments of LPG. The way LPG is, it's gas. It's not like liquefied. It's not liquid product like petrol or diesel. So you have specialized loading arms or facilities, that receptacles that receive these products and transship them from the vessels into the storage tanks and into trucks that distribute them locally. So Nigeria was not prepared to go into prior construction agreements with the companies that set up these plants in the country, to also make provision for a certain percentage of production to go into servicing local or domestic consumption. So that's the challenge we had. But sometime in 2021, when the price of gas started spiking, Nigeria LNG decided to allocate a certain percentage of their products in country, and that made the price of the product come a little bit, to drop a little bit. But I don't know the dynamics surrounding it. There's a lot of politics going on in the oil and gas sector. The oil and gas sector, as it is, based from the producers. The producers primarily not producing to service domestic consumption. They are producing for export. So whatever multiplier effects that their production would have, impacting the local consumption or the local market by driving the prices down, since you don't pay for shipments, you don't pay for demurrage of vessels, you don't pay for all those costs that are associated with importing these products. You see that the exporters actually make more profit. It makes more financial sense for them to export their products than selling their products locally. Because if they have to sell their products locally, then it will be benchmarked across the international price for the sale of the products. So the solution is simple. The government should be able to come up with policies, with not just policies, but go into agreements, have conversations around how certain percentages of all these products that are produced for export, a certain portion of these products should be dedicated for domestic consumption. The Nigerian oil and gas agenda going forward is the gas decade, as it is being called. It means that Nigeria has more gas potentials than even crude oil itself. So if we are a gas-rich country, resource-rich country, why should we still be importing domestic cooking gas into this country when we produce so much, so much of it? In fact, domestic cooking gas or LPG is supposed to be very cheap in Nigeria. Very cheap in Nigeria, considering the quantity being produced in this country. But again, you have to look at the dynamics of cost. You have to look at the economic side of it, the economics of scale. Producers aside and finding ways to sort themselves out with the investors and the owners or shareholders of these plants.
Right, thank you so much for that. Now, Mr. Emeka Wabote, the Executive Secretary of the NCDMB, also said that with these planned acquisitions, the share of local firms in crude oil production could potentially reach 30% or more in the near future. Do you see this happening? Mr. Emeka, are you there? All right, if we don't have Mr. Emeka, Mr. Brown, I'm going to redirect the question to you. Did you get it, or would you like me to repeat myself?
Okay. Let me take it blessing. Now, there's a lot of politics in the oil industry, a lot of politics in the oil industry. When Seplat had an agreement to purchase or buy over ExxonMobil shallow water and the slight assets that they have onshore in 2021, that deal was considered to have been closed out. But the Nigeria NNPC, that the Nigerian represented by NNPC, put a clog in the wheel of ensuring that transaction went through. Reason being, from industry watchers, was that since the NNPC has a higher percentage in ownership through the joint venture agreements by which oil is being produced in the way oil is produced in this country, is that a foreign company comes to produce, the Nigerian NNPC takes a share, and in most cases, the Nigerian NNPC takes a percentage of the shareholding between 49 and 51%. So it places Nigerian NNPC or the Nigerian state in a position to have a right of first refusal. Now, Nigeria NNPC or NNPC artist was not given the right of first refusal or offer, but rather a private company, Seplat, went into that transaction with ExxonMobil. Of course, ExxonMobil, the American company, the parent body, will want to sell their assets, strip their assets of them to an organization that they deem fit. But the Nigerian state decided to slow that transaction down before it eventually happened. So we'll continue to celebrate that Nigerian or local companies are taking part and deepening their presence in the production aspect. But there is no multiplier that is massive on Nigerians. The oil and gas industry is not a labor-intensive industry. It's not an industry that employs a lot of bodies. It does not employ a lot of people. It is mostly process-driven. So the only impact that it can positively have on Nigerians is when the availability of the products in the domestic market are affordable. But unfortunately, we are not going to see this. The crude oil that we produce basically for the export market, the associated products that come with it, the compressed natural gas that vehicles are going to use very soon, the CNG, though the price is cheap, but I can bet you that when there is full scale out of CNG, the price of CNG at the pump will go up. And these are the politics that goes on the oil and gas sector. We are a resource cost country. That's what Nigeria is. The resources in this country, especially the oil resources, are not structured in a way that it benefits the average citizen. They are not structured in a way that the average citizen has access to them without spending so much to get there. So, bringing the price down, I don't see that happening soon. Making it affordable will also not happen. Why are speculators beginning to say that the price of cooking gas will get up to 18,000 naira very soon by December? They're testing the waters. That is what they are doing. They are testing the waters. They are preparing the minds of Nigerians so that when they check up the price, Nigerians will just adjust and just flow with it and just continue suffering and smiling. But I think we need to get to the point where the regulatory bodies should be able to put in place punitive measures, strong measures that protects the locals, that protects our consumption, that protects our interests as Nigerians, because these resources are collectively owned by all Nigerians. But we seem not to be having that. Now, without sounding, we are celebrating the NCDMB. The NCDMB is as good as it is, as good. The NCDMB is another silo that has been created. Originally, the regulatory body in the oil and gas sector is the DPR. The DPR has been unbundled. You now have 3 bodies out of the DPR.
All right.
You have the option.
All right. Apologies, Mr. Brown. We'll need to interrupt at this point. I would really quickly like to ask Mr. Emeka, before we wrap this up, what do you hope that this, what do you hope that the outcome is? Mr. Emeka, can you hear us?
I can't hear you well. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. What is your hope for the outcome?
I can't hear you.
Mr. Emeka, can you hear me?
I can't hear you well.
All right, unfortunately, we're having issues with Mr. Emeka's audio, but Mr. Brown, just very quickly, in a few seconds, what do you hope that the outcome is?
What do you hope that the outcome is? What outcome, please?
With the
what?
Looking at how we now have more indigenous, ownership as opposed to not participating at all. And you have said that there seemed to be a possibility that the prices will still increase. This doesn't guarantee that there will be a reduction in price, especially of crude oil and all that. How do you hope that things turn out?
The business models are set up in a way that the products are targeted for export. So when the products are primarily targeted for export and not for local consumption, you don't expect product will be cheaper in country. The business model was established that way. Compressed natural gas is basically for domestic consumption, and that's why it is cheap as we speak. In fact, at the time, it was 100 naira a liter for compressed natural gas. Now that demand will be high as we are transiting from petrol and diesel cars to CNG powered vehicles, due to the demand that will increase and capacity to meet it is actually not fully installed, we will see another increase in the price of CNG. So it might get up to 200 naira or more, but that is still going to be affordable to the average Nigerian compared to LPG. LPG is supposed to be cheaper because it is cleaner, it has a better impact on the environment. Therefore, the government should be able to work with the producers and ensure putting in contracts for joint venture partnerships with oil producers. They are made to understand that a percentage of their production is targeted towards the domestic market, and then price regulations will take place. But you imagine Content Development Board receives 1% of every contract that is issued in every oil from this country. The DPR collects a certain amount of money for every liter of LPG that is produced in this country or CNG that is produced in this country. Now, these are government institutions that are ordinarily supposed to be in one place, but they have been multiplied into 3. And these 3 come with different regulations, come with different regulatory frameworks, come with different areas they are supposed to monitor and manage. And they also come asking for certain payments that goes to these bodies for the running of these bodies. So what we are just simply in the oil and gas industry is creating vehicles that are revenue generating vehicles.
Okay, now going back to crude oil, you did mention that, and it's been a long time coming conversation where we've talked extensively about why the country still has to import crude oil, seeing how we're a top 3, producers of crude oil. What is that element that we're lacking? How much longer do we have to import this product and, not refine it ourselves and make it cheaper for us to use?
Are you referring to importation of crude oil or importation of petroleum products?
Of petroleum products generally.
Okay, petroleum products. The reason why importing petroleum products is simple. It's not rocket science. It's because we don't have refineries that are functioning. That's the simple reason why we're importing. And we know all politics surrounding the refining business in this country, how vested interests don't want the refineries to function. Vested interests don't want the refineries to produce because of the people that get free money from a subsidy payments. So we will continue to import these products. That's why I say we are a resource-cursed country. The resources we have in this country are not serving the purpose of the citizens of this country. NCDMB can continue to celebrate that Nigerians are being deepened into the space in oil production, owning oil production facilities. What is just simply happening is that foreign technical partners are working with local owners in collaboration to acquire and own these assets. And when they own and acquire these assets, they try to get Nigerians in there, but you still have the foreign component expatriate people that are there and pseudo expatriate owners.
Right.
What we're doing is we're just washing and reinventing. There's nothing new.
Okay. All right. A big thank you to you, George Brown, Oil and Gas Management Consultant, River State, and of course, in absentia to Chuks Emeka, Oil and Gas Analyst in Lagos. Thank you for joining us to discuss this on the show.